Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing my top 14 of 2014. So these are just going to be the top 14 books that I read in 2014, not necessarily books that came out during last year, I suppose. So it was a pretty good reading year. I didn't quite hit 100, but there were some good books, I read some bad books, I read some different books, so can't wait to show you guys what's on this list. So these are loosely in order from favorite to least favorite of the bunch, but at number 14 I have The Forbidden Game by L.J. Smith. This was a reread for me and I read it in January, I believe. So it is a bind-up of 3 stories that all take place within the same time, world, characters sort of thing. And briefly, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, it is about a girl named Jenny who buys a game, like a board game, from a kind of sketchy area, and when she takes it home to play with her friends, they all end up in this game facing their nightmares. So some live, some don't, and it just kind of goes on their journey through the 3 stories, and it is so good. It is such a good mystery thriller. If you're into that, I totally recommend you pick up this one as well as her other books. Then at number 13 I have The Vincent Boys and the Vincent Brothers by Abby Glines. These were good. The issue I had with this first one was the circumstances in which they came into a relationship, but I read them both in a day apiece and they were just really good and really just summary and romance books. So these were the first books I read by this author and it made me want to read many more. At number 12 I have And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This was my first Agatha Christie book and I read it for our Classics month in July. I wanted to pick this up because I read 10 by Gretchen McNeil last year, or in 2013 I should say, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So this year I was inspired to pick up this one and I'm so glad I did. It was so good and probably better than 10, even though 10 is just the young adult version, but because of this I bought many more of her books and I'm so glad I picked it up. So at number 11 I have Conversion by Catherine Howe. This was a book I had never heard of. I'd picked up at BEA when I went in 2014 and I was so glad I read it. We got in that line on a whim and so obviously I got it signed. But this is a book that has both past and present perspectives and it kind of involves the Salem witch trials and there's not much I can tell you without spoiling it. I believe I did a review on it, so I will link that down below as well as any other reviews I did for these books. But I just remember being really great and I want to read so many more books by this author because her writing just drew me in right from the beginning and it's so descriptive but not overbearing, so it was so good. Number 10 is Hypocrisy by D.M. Anacino. This was a book I got sent for review as part of a blog tour and it just turned into so much more than I thought it would. It is an adult mystery book that centers around a doctor that is on the verge of discovering the cure for cancer and then she dies. So it's kind of like the homicide detective is following the case and then so much more comes up with that and it just gets you so into it. And for an adult book it wasn't hard to read at all. It was so easy and so fast paced, and if you're looking to read more adult books I recommend this one. Number 9 is a book I recently read and that is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. One of my favorite new adult books by far. The first book I read by Colleen Hoover. It is about a friends with benefits kind of relationship, but there's more going on in the characters and you get to find that out periodically through the story, and it actually goes from the present to 6 years before for the guy's perspective, and there was just so much going on and so many emotions. It was just so good. Number 8 is another classic because this year I decided to branch out and read more and I'm so glad I did because I read Animal Farm by George Orwell and it has become easily one of my favorite books I've ever read. There was so much more going on in this story than I expected. Even though it's so short, it was so filled with information and problems and character development and the rise and downfall of power, and there was just so much going on that I can't believe I waited so long to read it, and I know this is going to be a book that I reread many times. Number 7 goes to another book I picked up at BEA, and that is Messenger Fear by Michael Grant. I actually got to do an interview with Michael Grant for my blog and it was so amazing, so I will also link that down in the description if you haven't seen it. I was kind of hesitant going into this book because I tried to read Gone and I did not enjoy it. I couldn't get into the story, but this one sucked me in right from the beginning to the point I had to go and buy a hardback just to keep on my shelf so it would look so nice. And yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, so I will just link my review down below if you want to know. And it's kind of one of those books that it's best to go in blind, so you discover things with the character. And yeah, if you haven't read it, I recommend you do. Obviously, I recommend you read all of these books at some point in time, but especially this one for number 6, which is A Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins. This was my first really witch book, not considering Harry Potter. I mean more of like the feminine, witchy, learning to be witches kind of thing. Well, Harry Potter's kind of that too, but this one was just so funny, and there were more things going on with it than I thought it would. The plot took so many different turns than I'd expected, especially when I've started reading the second one. It is turning into what I didn't expect. So if you're looking for something funny but a very quick read and very suspenseful, but still full of action, like things get accomplished, I recommend you pick up this trilogy. So now we get into the top 5. These were all very hard for me to choose, so they're all kind of on the same level, but still from 5 to 1. So number 5 goes to The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. If you watched my channel for a while, you know how much I love this book. The sequel was one of my most anticipated books of this year. I still haven't read it, but I will. And it's just, you probably heard me talk about it before, but it is a bunch of kids that get to work for the FBI because they have natural powers that are just more advanced than others, so they're better at reading people and seeing probabilities, and you should just read it. So number 4 goes to The Treatment by Suzanne Young. As many of you know, one of my also most anticipated books of this year, but I got to read an arc of it and it was just as good as I thought it would be. It was an amazing conclusion, except I think there's going to be like another one in between or before The Remedy or something. Not too sure. But yeah, I already missed their relationship, Sloane and James, so I'll probably reread this in the future just to relive it, but it was very good and very full of action, so it was a good sequel. Now these top 3 are a very close tie to each other. So number 3 is The Bodies We Wear by Jen Roberts, another one of my most anticipated, if you remember that video. This was so different than I thought it would be. When I read the synopsis originally, they talked about drugs and how her friend died. But then as you read the story, it turns into so much more. There's so much character development and so much goes on within the story that you just get so attached to and you don't want to put it down. So if you haven't read this book, please, please, please do. It was so good. I recommend all of my friends read it, and I've told them many times to pick it up. Number 2 goes to Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alir Sayens. This book came highly recommended to me and I was not disappointed. It had a David Levithan feel to me, but I think I enjoyed it more than I've enjoyed other David Levithan books. So it's something I'm going to reread many times. I bought it for my therapist for Christmas because I know she's going to love it, and I just think everybody needs to read it. It is so good. There was so much development in this story, both in the characters and in the plot. It was just so good. I can't wait to read this again and experience it all over again. And then my number 1 books of 2014 goes to a series I finally got around to picking up and was not disappointed in the least, and that is the Shatter Me trilogy by Tahira Mafi. I just had so many emotions when I was reading these books, and I got so involved and so many feelings, I guess, and I just didn't want to stop reading it that I had to give it the number 1 spot. The character development and how you go from loving one character and hating him in the next book and vice versa. So it was just so good, and I can't wait to reread it as well as anything else she ever writes, because she has such a poetic writing style. I envy her for that so much. So there you have it. Make sure you let me know down in the comments what some of your favorite books of the year were, or if you think I missed any and I need to read them next year, let me know. I hope you guys had a great year in 2014 and an even better one in 2015, and I will see you soon. Bye!